The Mongol Empire's epic rise and fall reshaped the course of human history. Its vast conquests connected East and West, forging a global network of trade and cultural exchange. The winds of Genghis Khan's horses still whisper through the ages, beckoning us to ride into the storm of history. In the early 13th century, the vast expanse of the Mongolian plateau stretched out like an endless sea, punctuated by rolling hills, crystal-clear lakes, and majestic mountain ranges. This unforgiving yet beautiful landscape was home to a multitude of nomadic tribes, each with their own distinct culture, language, and traditions. Among these tribes were the Mongols, a people whose name would soon become synonymous with conquest, empire building, and unparalleled military prowess. The Mongols lived in a world of harsh realities, where survival depended on strength, cunning, and adaptability. They were skilled horsemen, archers, and hunters, able to thrive in one of the most inhospitable environments on Earth. Their society was organized into clans and tribes, each led by a Khan or chieftain who wielded significant power and influence. However, this tribal structure was also marked by frequent conflicts, raids, and power struggles, which would eventually provide the catalyst for the Mongols' epic rise to dominance. One such tribe, the Borjigin, played a pivotal role in the emergence of the Mongol Empire. The Borjigin were a powerful and respected clan, known for their bravery, intelligence, and strategic thinking. It was among this tribe that a young Temujin, later to become Genghis Khan, would rise to prominence. Born around 1162 AD, Temujin was the son of Yasuge, a minor chieftain, and his wife Hoelun. After his father's death, Temujin's family was abandoned by their tribe, leading them to face the harsh realities of the Mongolian wilderness alone. This period of hardship and struggle would shape Temujin's character, forging in him a fierce determination, resilience, and unwavering ambition. He would eventually marry a woman named Borte, who would become his lifelong companion and trusted advisor. Together, they would navigate the treacherous world of Mongol politics, forming alliances and eliminating rivals in their quest for power. As Temujin's reputation grew, so did his following. He attracted a loyal band of warriors, each drawn to his charismatic leadership, military prowess, and vision for a unified Mongol state. This core group of followers would become the foundation upon which the Mongol Empire was built. They were a diverse mix of tribesmen, including the Okanut, the Soldas, and the Kinnakat, each bringing their unique skills and strengths to the table. The early 13th century was a time of great upheaval in the region, with various tribes and kingdoms vying for power. The Tunguts, the Jurchen-led Jin dynasty, and the Muslim kingdoms of Central Asia all posed significant threats to Mongol stability. However, Temujin's strategic genius, combined with his ability to inspire loyalty and devotion in his followers, would eventually allow him to navigate these complex webs of alliances and rivalries. In 1206, a pivotal year in Mongol history, Temujin was formally recognized as the Khan of the Mongols, marking the beginning of a new era in their development. This momentous occasion took place on the banks of the Onon River, where Temujin's followers gathered to acknowledge his leadership and pledge their loyalty. It was here that he assumed the title Genghis Khan, which translates to Universal Ruler or Oceanic Ruler, signifying his ambition to create a vast unified empire that would stretch from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea. With his position as leader solidified, Genghis Khan set about forging a more centralized and organized state. He established a comprehensive system of laws known as the Yasa, which governed everything from crime and punishment to trade and diplomacy. This code of laws would become a hallmark of Mongol governance, allowing for a remarkable degree of stability and cohesion across their vast territories. As the Mongols began to expand their dominions, they faced numerous challenges, from the harsh terrain of the Gobi Desert to the fortified cities of northern China. However, under Genghis Khan's leadership, they developed innovative military tactics, including the use of cavalry archers, feigned retreats, and clever espionage. These strategies would prove devastatingly effective against their enemies, allowing the Mongols to conquer vast swaths of territory with remarkable speed and efficiency. As the Mongols continued to expand their empire, they set their sights on the neighboring Tungut Kingdom, a powerful and wealthy state that controlled much of northwestern China. The Tanguts had long been a thorn in the side of the Mongols, refusing to submit to their rule and even harboring enemies of the Khan. In 1207, Genghis Khan launched a campaign against the Tanguts, seeking to bring them under his control and gain access to their rich trade routes and resources. The Mongol army, now a well-oiled machine, swept across the Gobi Desert and into Tangut territory, using their lightning-fast cavalry and innovative tactics to outmaneuver and overwhelm their enemies. The Tangut capital, Ningxia, was besieged and eventually fell to the Mongols, who then proceeded to absorb the kingdom into their empire. The Tangut ruler, the Shangzong Emperor, was forced to submit to Genghis Khan and pledge his loyalty, marking a significant expansion of Mongol power in the region. Meanwhile, the Jin dynasty, which controlled much of northern China, began to take notice of the growing Mongol threat. The Jin emperor, Wanyan Yongji, dispatched a large army to confront the Mongols and protect his territories. However, the Jin forces were no match for the Mongol cavalry, and they suffered a series of crushing defeats at the hands of Genghis Khan's generals. The most significant of these battles took place in 1211, when the Mongols defeated a massive Jin army at the Battle of Yahuling, killing or capturing thousands of enemy soldiers. The Jin dynasty was now on the brink of collapse, and Genghis Khan saw an opportunity to strike a fatal blow. In 1213, he launched a campaign against the Jin capital, Zhengdu, modern-day Beijing, which was then one of the largest and most prosperous cities in the world. The Mongol army besieged the city, using catapults and other siege engines to breach its walls and pour inside. After a brutal and devastating campaign, Zhengdu fell to the Mongols in 1214, marking a major turning point in the history of China. The conquest of the Jin dynasty opened up new trade routes and resources for the Mongols, who now controlled much of northern China. Genghis Khan established a new capital at Yanjing, modern-day Beijing, which became a center of politics, culture, and commerce. The city was renamed Khanbalik, or the Khan City, and it would remain an important hub of Mongol power for centuries to come. As the Mongols continued to expand their empire, they encountered new challenges and opportunities. In 1218, Genghis Khan received a delegation from the Khwarezmid Empire, a powerful state that controlled much of modern-day Iran, Afghanistan, and Uzbekistan. The Khwarezmian Shah, Muhammad II, sought an alliance with the Mongols against their common enemies, but Genghis Khan was wary of the Shah's intentions. He saw an opportunity to expand his empire into Central Asia and gain control of the lucrative Silk Road trade routes. As Genghis Khan considered the Khwarezmid Shah's proposal, he became increasingly wary of the Shah's intentions. The Mongols had been expanding their empire rapidly, and the prospect of gaining control of the Silk Road trade routes was too enticing to resist. In 1219, Genghis Khan sent a trade delegation to the Khwarezmid Empire, led by his trusted envoy, Mahmud al-Khwarizmi. However, upon arrival, the delegation was met with hostility, and its members were executed on the orders of the Shah's governor in Otrar, a city located in modern-day Uzbekistan. This affront to Mongol dignity sparked Genghis Khan's ire, and he saw an opportunity to conquer the Khwarezmid Empire. In 1219, he launched a campaign against the Khwarezmids, marching his army across the Kyzylkum Desert with incredible speed and precision. The Mongols besieged the city of Otrar, which fell after a 5-month siege. Genghis Khan then divided his army into several contingents, each tasked with conquering different parts of the Khwarezmid Empire. One contingent, led by Genghis Khan's trusted general, Jibei Noyan, marched towards the city of Bukhara, located in modern-day Uzbekistan. The city was captured in 1220, and its inhabitants were either killed or taken prisoner. Another contingent, led by Genghis Khan himself, marched towards the city of Samarkand, which was also located in modern-day Uzbekistan. The city fell to the Mongols after a brief siege, and its inhabitants suffered the same fate as those of Bukhara. As the Mongols continued their conquest of the Khwarezmid Empire, they encountered fierce resistance from the Shah's armies. However, the Mongols' superior tactics and mobility allowed them to outmaneuver and defeat their enemies at every turn. The Khwarezmid Shah, Muhammad II, fled his capital city of Samarkand and took refuge in the Caspian Sea region, where he eventually died. The conquest of the Khwarezmid Empire marked a significant milestone in the expansion of the Mongol Empire. Genghis Khan had now gained control of the Silk Road trade routes, which connected Europe and Asia and were crucial for the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures. The Mongols also gained access to the rich resources of the region, including fertile agricultural land, mineral deposits, and skilled craftsmen. In 1220, Genghis Khan established a new province in the conquered territories, which he called Turkestan. He appointed a governor, Chin Timur, to oversee the administration of the province and ensure the loyalty of its inhabitants. The Mongols also began to rebuild and restore the cities they had destroyed during their conquest, including Samarkand and Bukhara. As the Mongols consolidated their control over the Khwarezmid Empire, they began to look towards new horizons for expansion. Genghis Khan's attention turned to the Western world, where he saw opportunities for conquest and riches in the lands of Eastern Europe and the Middle East. In 1221, he sent a delegation to the court of the Ayyubid Sultan, Al-Kamil, who ruled over Egypt and Syria. The delegation was led by Genghis Khan's trusted envoy, Chin Chai, who carried a message of friendship and alliance. However, the Ayyubid Sultan was wary of the Mongols' intentions, and he responded to their overtures with caution. Meanwhile, Genghis Khan began to plan his next campaign, which would take him into the heart of Eastern Europe. He assembled a massive army, estimated to be over 100,000 strong, and prepared to march westwards in search of new conquests and riches. As Genghis Khan's army assembled on the eastern banks of the Caspian Sea, preparations were underway for a massive campaign into Eastern Europe. The Mongol leader had set his sights on the kingdoms of Russia, Poland, and Hungary, which he saw as rich prizes to be conquered. In 1223, the Mongols launched a series of raids into present-day Ukraine and Belarus, testing the defenses of the Russian principalities. The Prince of Galicia, Volhynia, Mstislav III, formed an alliance with the princes of Kiev, Chernigov, and Smolensk to resist the Mongol invasions. However, the Russian armies were no match for the Mongol horde. In May 1223, the two forces clashed at the Battle of the Kalka River, where the Mongols employed their characteristic tactics of feigned retreats and encirclement. The Russian army was decimated, with estimates suggesting that up to 50,000 men were killed or captured. The Mongols then proceeded to sack several Russian cities, including Kiev, which was left in ruins. The Mongol invasion of Eastern Europe was not limited to Russia alone. In 1236, the Mongols launched a campaign into present-day Poland and Hungary, where they encountered fierce resistance from the local nobility. The Mongols defeated the Polish army at the Battle of Legnica in April 1241, killing the Polish Duke Henry II the Pious. Meanwhile, another Mongol army invaded Hungary, defeating the Hungarian king Bela IV at the Battle of Mohi in April 1241. The Mongol conquests in Eastern Europe were marked by widespread destruction and slaughter. The cities of Krakow, Sandomierz, and Vladimir were all sacked, with their inhabitants either killed or sold into slavery. However, the Mongols also introduced new administrative systems and trade networks to the regions they conquered. The Mongols established a system of governors and administrators to oversee the conquered territories, collecting taxes and tributes from the local populations. As the Mongol Empire expanded into Eastern Europe, Genghis Khan's successors began to consolidate their power and establish a more formalized system of government. In 1229, the Mongol Kurultai, or Great Assembly, was convened to elect a new Khan. The assembly chose Ögedei Khan, Genghis Khan's third son, as the new leader of the Mongol Empire. Ögedei Khan proved to be a capable and effective ruler, overseeing the continued expansion of the empire and the establishment of a more centralized administrative system. Under Ögedei Khan's leadership, the Mongols launched further campaigns into Eastern Europe, conquering present-day Bulgaria, Serbia, and Croatia. The Mongols also established trade relations with the Byzantine Empire, exchanging goods such as silk, spices, and furs for gold, silver, and other precious commodities. The Mongol Empire had become a vast and complex entity, stretching from China to Eastern Europe and encompassing a diverse range of cultures and populations. As the Mongol Empire continued to expand, Ögedei Khan began to face challenges from within his own family. His brother, Chagatai, who had been given control of the eastern provinces of the empire, began to assert his independence and challenge Ögedei's authority. Meanwhile, another brother, Jochi, who had been given control of the western provinces, began to make overtures towards the Russian principalities, seeking to form an alliance against Ögedei. The internal conflicts within the Mongol Empire would eventually lead to a period of instability and fragmentation as different factions and clans vied for power and influence. However, under Ögedei Khan's leadership, the empire continued to expand and consolidate its power, establishing itself as one of the greatest empires in history. The Mongols had created a vast and complex network of trade routes, administrative systems, and military conquests that would shape the course of world history for centuries to come. In 1241, Ögedei Khan launched a new campaign into Eastern Europe, seeking to conquer the remaining kingdoms and principalities that had resisted Mongol rule. The Mongols invaded present-day Germany, Austria, and Italy, defeating several European armies and sacking numerous cities. However, the Mongol advance was eventually halted by the death of Ögedei Khan in 1241, which sparked a succession crisis within the empire. The Mongol Kurultai was convened once again to elect a new Khan, but the assembly was unable to reach a decision. The empire was plunged into a period of instability and infighting as different factions and clans vied for power and influence. The Mongols continued to expand their empire, but at a slower pace than before. The death of Ögedei Khan marked the beginning of a new era in Mongol history, one characterized by fragmentation, instability, and eventual decline. The Mongol Empire was eventually divided into four main khanates: the Yuan dynasty in China, the Golden Horde in Russia, the Chagatai Khanate in Central Asia, and the Ilkhanate in Persia. Each of these khanates would develop its own distinct culture and traditions, but they would all remain connected to the broader Mongol Empire and its legacy. The Mongols had created a vast and complex entity that would shape the course of world history for centuries to come, leaving behind a lasting legacy of conquest, trade, and cultural exchange. As the Mongol Empire fragmented into four main khanates, the Yuan dynasty in China, established by Kublai Khan, continued to thrive. The Yuan capital, Khanbalik, became a center of trade and culture, attracting merchants and scholars from all over the world. The Yuan dynasty saw significant advancements in fields such as astronomy, mathematics, and medicine, with scholars like Guo Shoujing making groundbreaking discoveries. In contrast, the Golden Horde in Russia struggled to maintain its power and influence. The Khanate was plagued by internal conflicts and external threats, including the rise of the Grand Duchy of Moscow. The Golden Horde's capital, Sarai, was eventually sacked by the Timurid Empire in 1395, marking the beginning of the end of the Khanate. The Chagatai Khanate in Central Asia also faced significant challenges, including the Black Death, which devastated the region in the 14th century. The Khanate was eventually divided into two main branches: the Transoxiana Khanate and the Mogulistan Khanate. The Transoxiana Khanate became a major center of Islamic learning and culture, with scholars like Ibn Sina and al-Biruni making significant contributions to the field. The Ilkhanate in Persia, established by Hulagu Khan, saw significant cultural and scientific advancements during the 13th and 14th centuries. The Ilkhanate became a major center of trade and commerce, with the city of Tabriz emerging as a hub of mercantile activity. The Ilkhanate also saw significant advancements in fields such as astronomy and mathematics, with scholars like Nasir al-Din Tusi making groundbreaking discoveries. As the Mongol Khanates continued to evolve and change, the empire's legacy began to take shape. The Mongols had created a vast network of trade routes, known as the Silk Road, which connected Europe and Asia and facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures. The Mongols had also established a system of governance and administration that would influence the development of states and empires for centuries to come. In the 14th century, the Ming dynasty in China began to challenge the Yuan dynasty's authority, eventually overthrowing the Mongols in 1368. The Ming dynasty marked the beginning of a new era in Chinese history, one characterized by significant cultural, economic, and military advancements. The Ming dynasty also saw the rise of the Forbidden City, which became a symbol of imperial power and authority. As the Mongol Empire continued to decline, the Timurid Empire, established by Timur, began to rise to prominence. The Timurid Empire, which emerged in the late 14th century, would go on to become one of the most powerful empires in history, stretching from Central Asia to Anatolia. The Timurid Empire saw significant cultural and scientific advancements, with scholars like Ulugh Beg making groundbreaking discoveries in fields such as astronomy and mathematics. The decline of the Mongol Empire also saw the rise of new powers in Eastern Europe, including the Grand Duchy of Moscow and the Kingdom of Poland. These states would go on to play a significant role in shaping the course of European history, particularly during the Renaissance and the Enlightenment. The Mongol Empire's legacy continued to shape the world. From the trade routes and cultural exchange networks established during the empire's heyday to the systems of governance and administration that influenced the development of states and empires for centuries to come. In 1405, the Ming dynasty's Admiral Zheng He embarked on a series of maritime expeditions that would take him to the shores of India, the Middle East, and East Africa. These expeditions marked the beginning of a new era in Chinese maritime history and had significant implications for the global balance of power. The expeditions also facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures between China and the rest of the world, further solidifying the Mongol Empire's legacy as a facilitator of global trade and cultural exchange. As the 15th century drew to a close, the Mongol Empire's remnants continued to evolve and change. The Northern Yuan dynasty, which emerged in the early 15th century, would go on to become one of the last remaining Mongol Khanates. The Northern Yuan dynasty saw significant challenges, including the rise of the Ming dynasty and the expansion of the Timurid Empire. Despite these challenges, the Northern Yuan dynasty continued to play a significant role in shaping the course of Mongolian history, particularly during the 16th and 17th centuries. In 1635, the Northern Yuan dynasty was eventually absorbed into the Qing dynasty, marking the end of the Mongol Empire's independence. The Qing dynasty, established by the Manchu people, would go on to become one of the most powerful empires in Chinese history, ruling China for nearly 3 centuries. The Mongols had created a vast and complex network of relationships between different cultures and civilizations, facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures on a global scale. As the world continued to evolve and change, the Mongol Empire's legacy remained an enduring testament to the power of cultural exchange and the impact of human creativity and innovation. Their story serves as a powerful reminder that even the greatest empires will eventually decline, but the ideas, cultures, and connections they foster can endure for centuries. The Mongol Empire's impact on world history is a testament to the boundless potential of human creativity, innovation, and resilience. Thank you for joining me throughout this historical journey. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, remember that, to understand the present, we must first understand the past.